Hello and welcome to another episode. We're skipping verses 24 and 25 because they just repeat about the animals on the earth doing the same things that the fish in the sea and the birds of the sky did. How the cattle and the creepy crawlies on the earth, or the crawling things, the crawlers, they are also part of God's good creation, and they can be fruitful and multiply. But then we get to really interesting stuff here in verses 26 through 29. Then God said, "Let us make man," and that word for man is Adam, and it means not man as in maleness, more so humanity, mankind, you could say. In our image. Notice the plural here is very interesting. Now, there's a couple of different theories here. One of them is a theory that I think is, remembering that this is primarily a Jewish document, this theory is very Christian, which doesn't mean it's wrong. You just have to understand that the first 1,000 years of people reading this, they probably weren't thinking this, but they might have been. And that is that the our, the plural, is referencing to the Trinity. Now, this is true. The image of man is modeled after the Trinity in the sense of we have the agency of the Father in many ways. We have the intuition of the Spirit and the gifts of the Spirit later on after Acts. And of course, we are brothers remade in the family of the Son, right? However, I want to pay more attention to what the word God might indicate in the original Hebrew. So here we have Elohim, and Elohim can mean God as in Adonai, or Yahweh is his sacred name. However, Elohim can also mean just spiritual beings in general. It can mean, if we were a polytheistic society, we would maybe say gods. So Elohim includes the divine council who God allows to help him in his rulership of the world. This was referenced in the natural story of the stars and the sun and the moon earlier in this chapter. And the Elohim help God accomplish his goals, and they rule and govern. And I think Elohim is a very good interpretation of our image, because humanity is about to rule the earth, just in the same way as the stars help rule the skies. We'll talk more about this in the following verses. Our image, moving on from our to image is Tselem. And Tselem is a word used for idols, such as idol statues in pagan temples. And if you were to go to an ancient Hebrew temple or a tabernacle or even a synagogue, you would notice an absence of an idol image. That's because humanity is the idol image. And the function of the idol image helps us understand that more. The function of the idol image means it represents God to the people who enter into God's space, such as the temple or the tabernacle. Well, if God's space is the whole world, then humanity represents God to the whole world. A true human made in the Tselem, in the idol, the representative image of God, living out of that calling, is incredible indeed. And they are showing the goodness and graciousness of God to all the nations, as was intended for Israel. And you know what this image is, You know what this image is going to do? It is going to rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the sky, essentially over most of what is created around the land. And you know, God says he's going to do it, and then God does it. God created, very special word, created. It indicates personal involvement. God created Adam, man, humanity, in his, and that capital H tells us that we are not just in the image of Elohim generally, we're in the image of the Elohim of Elohim, in God's own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. Now, here's the question. What is the image of God? We've talked about it, the idol image and whatnot, but does the image of God mean that we look like God? Maybe. Probably not. Does it mean that we have capabilities that God has, such as creativity, imagination, moral agency? Well, on a functional level, that's certainly true. But what it means in here, and it tells us that, let us make man in our image according to our likeness. Oh, what does that image mean? Oh, it means you're going to rule. What has God been doing during this whole chapter? He's been taking the wild and waste of creation, and he's been ruling it and subduing it to bring life. Think of humanity. Think of humanity's capability on this earth. Is there any creature that can claim as much effect on God's creation as humanity? No. I'm sorry, but a beaver dam is nothing compared to the Hoover Dam. And in the same way, we are exercising that image by ruling and, in fact, even subduing the earth. And we have that word subdue here. And that's the only thing, according to Genesis 1, that separates us from the animals. The animals are fruitful and they multiply and they fill the earth. But humans and humans alone truly subdue the earth. In our modern day electricity, is it not a subduing of natural forces for our ends and goals? Think of back to ancient times. The moment humanity builds a bridge or a dam or a canal or a roof to keep the rain off of their heads, as opposed to crawling in a dirt cave, they subdue a small part of the wildness and the wastedness of creation. The moment that they farm, they are subduing water and dirt and rain and sun in order to create life. So we can see that in a way is the image of God in practice, to have incredible influence over creation, not to mention our uniqueness on a biological level. And rule over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the sky and over every living thing that moves on the earth. Then God said, "Behold, I have given you every plant," and this word given is important, "given every plant yielding seed that is on the surface of all the earth, and every tree which has fruit yielding seed, it shall be food for you." And here we have this image of God's generosity. Not some trees, not some plants, every plant and every tree. And that will play against the story in Genesis 3 with the Satan and Satan's claim that God is actually a God of scarcity. That's one way to read Genesis chapter 1 the way that it wants to be read.